Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hello and welcome to episode 77 of the English with Kirsty podcast. And today we're going to talk about idioms because these idiom posts seem to go down quite well for people who want to improve their vocabulary. And we're specifically talking about idioms to do with hands, fingers and thumbs, because I hadn't realized until I started talking to somebody about this the other day how many there actually are. So I'm going to look at 10 today and what they mean and example sentences. If you want to download the PDF that goes with this episode, you can request it on the show notes page. So if you go to englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 77, you can request the PDF there, and the PDF will include some examples that are not on the podcast. So if you want further examples, then get your free PDF at englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 77. Okay, so we've got 10 examples here, and I'm just going to go through them and give some more information about that. So the first lot that we're going to do is something to do with hands. So the first one is to give someone a hand. So if you give someone a hand, then you help them. You do something good for them, do them a favour. You're not actually giving them your hand, but you're helping them in some way. So, for example, can you give me a hand with these boxes, please? Means, can you help me to carry the boxes? Can you help me to move them, empty them, whatever you're doing? But if you ask somebody to give you a hand, it means that you would like some help. And if you offer to give someone a hand, it means you offer to give them some help. So you can use it in a number of different ways like that. Number 2 is to have your hands full. So it means if you do literally have your hands full, it means you can't carry anything else or you would drop everything. And sometimes we use this figuratively as well. So if you have your hands full, you don't have any time, any capacity to take on anything else at the moment. So you're really busy and you have a lot to do. So I'd love to come, but I have my hands full at the moment organising the opening event. Let's get together some other time. So really it means here that you're so busy, you can't take on anything else. You can't put any more meetings into your diary, so your hands are full. But next week you'll have more time, so you can arrange to do something then. Number 3, to have a hand in something. And this means that you're kind of involved with something. You've influenced something, or someone has influence something, and you think it's them. So the example is, so the team meals at the Italian restaurant, I bet Mark had a hand in that. He loves Italian food. So really here you're saying, oh, I think Mark had something to do with that. We know the meals at the Italian restaurant and he loves Italian food. I bet he organised that or suggested that. He was involved in that decision. And so if somebody's involved in a decision, they have a hand in the decision. Number 4, to get out of hand. It means basically to become out of control. It's past the boundaries of what's good. So for example, the office party was fun, but it got a bit out of hand towards the end. Sometimes office parties do descend into chaos, or people do or say things that they wish they hadn't because they drank too much alcohol at the office Christmas party. So it can be, to get out of hand is to become too much or to be out of control. So it's not good when things get out of hand. And then number 5 is to take something into your own hands. So it's something that you're not responsible for initially, but either other people aren't taking action or they aren't doing a good job of dealing with this problem. So you take things into your own hands. So everybody was moaning about this, but nobody wanted to do anything. So I took matters into my own hands and raised it at the next team meeting. So it's not your job to raise it at the meeting, but it's driving you crazy that everybody's complaining about this problem and not taking action. So you said, right, I'm going to raise it at the next team meeting and let's have the discussion rather than everyone just moaning about it. So it's usually when something isn't your job, but you see a need or something's driving you crazy and you take it into your own hands because nobody else is dealing with it. Okay, so the next 5 are to do with your fingers or thumbs or both, as in number 6. Because if you're all fingers and thumbs, it means that you're like clumsy and unable to hold things steadily. Usually not because somebody is naturally like that, but it's usually because of something, like if you're nervous or you're upset and so you're not paying attention. So it's not so often used about people who are just not very good in that way, but it's more like, for example, the example I have here is, I was so nervous about giving the presentation, I was all fingers and thumbs, I knocked my water over and dropped my notes. And so it's usually when people are perhaps nervous or perhaps not focused on what they are doing and they're all fingers and thumbs because they drop things or spill things. Okay, number 7, to point the finger. And this doesn't literally mean that you're pointing at somebody, although it can mean that, but usually it means that you're blaming them for something. So don't point the finger at me, I wasn't even there when it happened. So, don't blame me. It couldn't have been me, I wasn't even there. So to point the finger at someone is to say that they were responsible or they were to blame for something that happened. Number 8, thumbs up, is when you approve of something, you think something's good. And you like something. So we gave the idea a big thumbs up in the meeting. It will make things much easier for everybody. So it's when you give your approval to something, and if you don't give something a thumbs up, then you don't give your approval to something. Number 9, to have someone under the thumb. This isn't a good thing. It means that someone has got someone else or a group of people under their control in a negative way. So they were controlling these people's actions or what they're going to say. So she's got the management committee firmly under her thumb. There won't be any objections from them. So it's a negative thing because you're basically manipulating or having power over somebody. That means that they can't think or act for themselves. They're just doing what you want them to do or what someone else wants them to do. So it's a negative expression. And number 10, turning it around to make it a bit more positive, to keep your fingers crossed. And this means that you're hoping for a positive outcome. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that my holiday request will be approved. I really want to go away in August. So this is, you're hoping for a positive outcome and keeping your fingers crossed that this good thing that you want will actually happen. So there are 10 expressions on this list. There are many more, but I kept it to 10 so that the podcast didn't get really long. As I said, you can request the PDF with all these expressions and further examples of their use by going to englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 77. And if you've got anything that you'd like to say to me, you can also use the contact form on that page. You can, if you have any ideas about other things that you would like me to cover in the podcast or any feedback, then you can use the contact form to give me that feedback. And just to mention as well, if you are in Germany or the UK, you can use the affiliate link if you would like to support the podcast. It doesn't cost you any more, but if you're going to amazon.de or amazon.co.uk and you use my link, then I get a small percentage of what you spend instead of Amazon getting all of it. So if you'd like to support the podcast in that way and you are in Germany or the UK, that would be really nice. I would really appreciate that. And yeah, if you want the PDF, you can request that too. It's all on the same page. And apart from that, I hope you have a good week and have fun learning English. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.